Welcome, friends, and welcome to another. Let's start that again. Three, two, one. Welcome, friends, and welcome to another DPZ show on the Sports Card Dad Network. I wanted to today is it's an individual show. Next week we will have a guest, a very special guest. So I look forward to having that conversation, and I look forward to having you all join us and provide your comments as usual and your great feedback. But today I wanted to talk about a pitch count when it comes to purchasing sports cards, about identifying maybe there's an issue. You might have a struggle in controlling your spending habits when it comes to buying sports cards. And I feel like it's a timely conversation because within the next few months, I believe, it's just my opinion, I could be wrong, but I believe that we're going to see a lot of cards entering the market. Good, great cards, like desirable cards, collectible cards, rare cards that we have come to love, especially those of us who have entered the hobby in the past 4 or 5 years, even 6 years, have come to really appreciate and desire. I think those cards are going to start hitting the market, and it's going to be very, very tempting to try to find a way to buy those cards. And I'm speaking from experience because I find myself in that same situation. I find myself going, I just don't know how to stop, because you see these really great cards pop up and you want to keep buying them because they're awesome. And you think, well, gosh, are they going to come? Are we going to see them again? Are they going to be cards that disappear and land in a collector's hand and never to resurface again? Or when they do resurface at a premium from what they're potentially being sold at now, based on the market conditions and how volatile everything is right now, is now the opportunity to get that card, and you have that FOMO moment. I think it's important to step back and take stock of where you're at financially. It's going to get a little bit more rough in the next few months. I think the recession we all are talking about is not only probably already here, but looming large, and it's going to make cash very, very desirable. So you're going to probably see a lot of these cards hit the market because people are going to want to free up liquidity and capital for their own, just security, and having that backstop that they probably want to have, and cards aren't going to provide that. I'm not saying it makes me nervous about the value of some of these cards. I mean, I'm a little sheepish on modern prospecting right now, but to each their own. I think that everybody's in a different situation financially. So, take this all with a grain of salt, depending on where you're at financially with your life. Only you know that. But I'm asking everybody really to take a good, long, hard look in the mirror. And are you someone that maybe has a problem? Are you someone that maybe struggles? And I say has a problem, I would just say who struggles when you see a really great card pop up, that you've wanted or coveted, or you've learned that is very important. Is it important enough to buy it now? Is it important enough to sell a card that you really planned on keeping to buy it now? Step back and ask yourself those questions. Of course, you always want to honor your deals. Any agreements you come to privately, especially, you want to honor those. Obviously, pay for all your cards. Don't ever not pay for a card. But to be mindful of what's leading you there in the first place. Is it Instagram stories of cards that are popping up? Is it Instagram stories promoting cards at auctions? Nothing wrong with that. I'm a big fan of all those folks that do that. It's very interesting. You learn a lot about the cards. But is that triggering you to want to go buy a card? Obviously, if it is, they're doing their job. But is that mean you need to step away from Instagram? Does it mean you need to step away from content that encourages you to go buy a card? I don't think there's a lot of content out there like that anymore. I feel like a lot of the content now has just shifted towards appreciating cards we have, talking about the history behind sets and parallels. And that kind of content is great. And here's why. It's great because it helps you appreciate what you might already have, or help you establish a goal for what you want to collect down the road. That's important. I think it's important for two reasons. One reason is it gives you a chance to reflect on what you may have, pray over what you already have, appreciate it, be grateful for it, be happy with it. And two, it helps you focus in on what you may want to collect down the road. It doesn't have to be now. I think a lot of us struggle with that FOMO. And in the past 3 or 4 years, we probably bought a lot of cards thinking they're going to go up in the future. I better get it now. And there's nothing wrong with that thought, because probably, some did, but a lot of them did not. And a lot of them actually retreated in value to where now you can buy them at a premium discount. And it leaves a lot of us folks that maybe bought them at a high level feeling like, gosh, maybe we should have waited. Well, you're never going to get that right. I mean, it's impossible. So there's no use, sweating that out or dwelling on it. I just think that maybe we can apply that same logic now and go, hey, into the future, maybe these cards are going to be still there, maybe at the same price, maybe a small premium, but maybe even less, maybe even at a lesser number. And that will allow us to maybe collect that card at a later date. Plus, we're going to feel better about being patient, which is hard, but being patient is important. And maybe there are a couple cards you need to sell to get yourself out of a situation. You should never feel bad about that. There's nothing wrong with overreaching and then correcting that. It takes a lot of guts to do that, but there's nothing wrong with it. So don't let anyone ever tell you that you shouldn't, sell a card that you were really passionate about, even if it was not that long ago. I can tell you that a lot of people right now are looking at bonus situations. They're changing dramatically from what they might have thought they were going to be. So maybe people are anticipating a different financial standing, and then they have to make a decision. That happens all across the board. So I really don't have I wouldn't ever criticize anyone for making those types of decisions. Maybe they just felt like they just don't get the joy out of cards anymore and they want to move on. That's up to everybody, and that's their decision. That's okay. But for those of us or folks that want to stay involved, want to stay engaged, how can we do that in a healthy way? How can we do that in a fiscally providential way? I believe that's giving yourself a pitch count. It's retreating away from content or things that may trigger you or just tempt you. Like having eBay on your phone, get rid of it if it's going to tempt you. If being in a collector's group is really difficult, maybe mute that collector's group so you don't see all those cards coming up tempting you to want to buy them. Maybe getting rid of Facebook off your phone, finding a way to just handpick a few YouTube or podcasts you like to listen to because they celebrate cards or they celebrate a certain way you collect cards, whether it be the current ups and downs of the baseball market, basketball or hockey or football, and you that's exciting to you because maybe you do some fantasy football or some fantasy baseball or basketball or any of that. I mean, again, you want to be careful with the gambling aspect of this, right? That's the whole premise. But just being mindful of all that, what brings you joy that doesn't cost you a lot of money, I guess, is really kind of what I'm trying to narrow this conversation down to. And how can we do that in a healthy way? Where we can still have fun and engage in the hobby, but we're not left feeling like, maybe we've overreached a little bit. And I think I just recently came off an episode with Jeremy Lee on Taking Stock. It was a terrific episode. It was covering, the hobby drama. And my point of it, my focus on that in that conversation wasn't so much about the content that's being created. It really had nothing to do with that. It had everything to do with the kind of conversations we're having offline, the kind of conversations we're having with one another, and what is spurring that on? Is it jealousy of other people's collections? Maybe it's, hey, how can this person get to afford all these wonderful cards and I'm left here, struggling to buy the cards I want, or I took so many losses over the past however many, and now I'm struggling to buy the cards I want to have. I want to stay in this hobby. Whatever it may be, there could be 1,000 reasons. Maybe you just don't like that person. How do we not engage in those conversations and go, you know what? This is probably coming from this place, and this is probably my own issue. This is my own, disposition right now that has been created for whatever reason. But how can I unravel that and not make that somebody else's problem, not get upset and lash out at somebody else? But those conversations come behind the scenes, right? I think they do the most damage. The text messages, the phone calls, the DMs, the voice DMs, all of that. And I believe, and as I said in the episode, everybody's a content creator. So if you're putting that kind of stuff out on a story, it does affect people, and you got to be very careful and mindful. But I think about having that discipline, right? Discipline to not engage in those conversations. Discipline to not want to buy the card you see, or you see somebody, have a great game in basketball, and you see there's a possibility for this person, Now I'm gonna go buy their card. I'm gonna go buy their card right now. I wasn't anticipating buying this player's card even 4 hours ago, but now I am because I've watched this game or a baseball game or just any sport. Are we disciplined, right? How can we become more disciplined? I'm including myself in this conversation. How can we become more disciplined and enjoy the hobby differently? So let me shift from that. Okay, so maybe you remove all those things and you handpick what you want to listen to. You want to enjoy, things more. And I'll give you one more interesting. I don't know if this is true. This could be true. This could be not true. But there was a study that was done by this Japanese doctor when it came to water, and he had his students, all these students in his class, professor, like say negative things like "you're a fool," "I hate you," all these terrible things into these bottles of water, and then he poured those bottles of water out on petri dishes and froze them, and he put them under a microscope. And under the microscope, those petri dishes full of water that people spoke all that negative energy into actually started bubbling up in black under the microscope. I mean, again, this could be, who knows, right? It was interesting that the water had memory of that. He had other students speak into this bottle of water like positive things, and they put that water in a petri dish and they froze it, slid it under a microscope, and it formed ice crystals like snowflakes. So it seems like and our body's made up of 97% water. We're biologically affected by the things we say to ourselves, and we're biologically affected by the things we consume. So if we are feeling negative about the world around us and we come to the hobby and we feel negative, that's not a good thing. That's going to make us only lash out or maybe have addictive behaviors that spur on different things and can basically cascade us down even further into a hole. So my thought is, perpetuate and put together, positive things that you can consume. I know a lot of people I'm not talking about nefarious activity. I'm not talking about bad actors and all that. That's great. The people that put that, shine a light on that, it's very important. I'm just talking about how you are the gauge of that for yourself, and you understand how that affects your body, how that affects how you feel every day. I'm asking you to just consider maybe try to surround yourself with more positive. Now, on the collecting side, okay, Dennis, what do you do? I mean, I can't go get those Grail cards I want. Well, we can't collect Grail cards, right? I think that's a misconception. That's a misconception I've had. I want to have all these Grail cards. I can't afford all those Grail cards. They're Grail cards for a reason. Lots of people want them. They're in high demand. They're very scarce, and they're very valuable. You can't collect those. Those are really tough to collect. You collect cards. You put a PC together that sort of like surrounds, if you get your foundation and you surround it with other cards that are meaningful, nostalgic to you, but don't break the bank. I want to talk about those cards. So recently I've been thinking, okay, how do I pivot? I'll get rid of eBay off my phone. I'll limit my time on Instagram, and other than trying to, promote, stuff for Dustin and myself and what we're doing here. But limit myself from some of these things, right? So take the triggers away. I know what they are, remove them. Okay, I've done that now. All right, what's next? Here's what's next, in my opinion. I got these two cool cases I used to have full of cards when I first started collecting. They're mounted on my wall in my master bedroom. And luckily, my wife allowed me to do it. Two of those 34, I think everybody knows what I'm talking about. It used to be full of cards when I started my sports card collecting journey. And those cards were not Grails. Those cards weren't some of these cards that I've come to appreciate now that I'm very happy owning. But they were cards that were very cool and nostalgic to me. They didn't cost very much money either. And I think a lot of us kind of grew to understand the value in cards. Some of us haven't. And if those of you that haven't, bravo. Good for you. I'm very, very impressed. And you have my full attention and respect. You've been able to hold the course and steer right where you're supposed to be this whole time. I know there's going to be some of you folks in the comments mentioning that. I anticipate it now. That's great. I'm not saying I think that's wonderful. Good for you. As again, we should be celebrating folks that make great decisions, that have wins in their lives, but we should also be trying to help others improve and get better. This is what I'm trying to do with this episode. So I looked at that big, huge, it's empty. There's nothing in there because I have this little box full of cards of these really great cards that I've curated, which I'm very happy I have, but I don't really have that because those two boxes are completely empty. So I'm like, okay, I've got all these Project 2020 cards. I collected the whole Griffey set. I'm going to send those in and get them graded. I have no idea I'll send them in the cheapest way I can possibly send them in. Okay, that's worth one decent card. The price to grade all those. But now I'm going to get 20 of those back. That'll fill most of it up. I'm going to grade some of these really cool cards that matter to me. Like I have like 3 or 4 cards that survived from my childhood that I thought were very special back in the day, like a 1990 Leaf Ken Griffey Jr. or a 1990 Hoops David Robinson. Not the one where he's holding up the jersey, the one where he's shooting. That card, I mean, there's lots of them, right? They're probably both PSA 8s, if that. I've had them in lockdown and not in those big old brick things that we used to see back in the day, but they were in an extra protective case. Not all there wasn't the snap cases we have now, the magnetic one touches, but it was protected. I obviously thought back then I need to take care of this card. It's gonna take care of me later, but as we all know, that didn't happen. But they were still important, and as a kid, I thought they were important. So I thought I gotta seal these suckers up. These cards have stories for me. So that's $25, $50. I'll grade those 2 cards. I'll put them in that case because I can look at that and go, yeah, I have all these great cards. I've learned, I've grown. My hobby experience has deepened. It's wonderful. I'm very grateful for it. But this is where it started. Before the boom even happened, right? This is where it started as a kid. All right, take it another step further. Start going through all your cards. Do you have some cards that maybe you had in just a sleeve or even one of those top loaders that was still important, that mattered to you? Go grade it. And I'm not sponsored by any grading company, but just go grade it. Grade it at SGC, grade it somewhere else. Who knows? Wherever you want to, just grade it. And seal it up. Who cares about the grade? But now you have a card you can talk about. This was an important card to me. I have my slabbed PC that of meaningful cards that probably don't mean really anything to anybody else. They might cross over, but those cards, like I opened up packs from between 88 and 90. I was opening up packs of cards like crazy. $88, $89, $86 because it still lagged in for some reason in 1989. It's still getting $89 set. 90 tops, 89, all those sets, right? So go through how many cards can you pull out of there? Go get them graded, the ones that are meaningful for you. Okay, Dennis, I don't have any of my cards left. They're all gone. I don't know where they went. Go find them online. You can find the slab ones and buy those too because they're pretty cheap, right? Go find like PSA 8, PSA 9s of those. It'll be pennies on the dollar, and you'll have the card in your hand again. Or better yet, for the experience, for the fun of it, especially if you have kids, go buy like one of those sealed sets. They have sealed sets for $88, $89, and Fleer, and all these different great, sets for back in the day, basketball, football, baseball. Football and basketball get a little bit more pricey. I know the baseball is like ridiculously produced. But you can go buy those and just break them open. Even the sealed sets, like you're going to get one of every card, but maybe that card pops for you. We'll go get an 88 Mark Grace rated rookie. That's a card I didn't keep, but I loved so much when I was a kid. I already had a set I bought for like $10 like a year ago of $88 because there's so many of them. I'm going to pull that out. I'm going to grade that card. That'll be fun because it'll be, okay, what condition? Could it be a 10? Probably not. But if it's whatever grade it is, it's exciting. I get to look at it again. It's going to bring back all those memories. It's going to remind me why I do this in the first place, which is the most important thing. It's not about the drama. It's not about, the investing all the time and all that stuff. We'd love to see all our cards go up in value, but it's about the experience. It's about nostalgia. It's about what does it trigger in your brain when you look at it? It brings you back. It kind of takes you to a place. And and we could do that kind of stuff, and it's inexpensive. I mean, we need to be saving money for Christmas and the different holiday seasons that are coming up for the kids and stuff like that. These are the kind of things that can be fun. Hey, include your kids in. Teach them about the cards that matter to you. Maybe get an extra graded slab one for them too. I do that with my son all the time. I'll take these meaningful cards and we'll start. I'll get 2 of them, so I'll get one for him, one for me, and they're inexpensive. And instead of dropping all this money on one big card or trying to move cards to pay for that one card, that's exciting. Don't get me wrong, it's fun, but maybe right now it'd be a great time to take a step back and think, maybe this would be a better way to do it. So I thought I was just thinking about this. I thought this would be a good topic for today. I don't know if it's an evergreen topic. It could be. I think being fiscally responsible is always a good idea. I think it's okay to step back and go, hey, I'm going down a direction I don't really want to go down, or maybe I need to pivot here. It's a good idea to pivot because I can go off and do something that's more enjoyable. Maybe not as enjoyable. It's not as exciting. You're not going to flex these cards on Instagram, but does that really matter? Because if you're not looking at Instagram all the time, then it won't matter, because you're going to be looking at your cars and enjoying those. This is really hard stuff. Consider it like a fasting from, your hobby spend, because I think when you think of fasting in a spiritual sense, it cleans you out, it kind of resets you, right? It draws you closer to God in a fasting sense on the spiritual side. So when you're fasting from cards, it allows you to appreciate maybe the things you already have, and appreciate some things that you've come to go, that's not that big of a deal because it's not worth that much money. And I'm not saying all of you think that way, but for those of you that do, maybe we can kind of, come back to appreciate some of these really great things that used to be really exciting, but have grown to not be because of all the different content we consume, to go, hey, these are the cards. And again, nothing wrong with that, because that's exciting. That's part of the journey, but we have to have that equilibrium, right? So I hope you enjoy this episode. It's a shorter episode. I don't want to just give you a bunch of stuff. I want it to be a little shorter so you can consume it. And on just a short drive down to work, if your drive is around 20 minutes, you get a break and you just want to, you're trying to work out for 20 minutes. Trust me, I understand that. I'm always between 25 and 30 on the Peloton. And this is a good time, a chunk of time. But I hope it's meaningful for you and it was time well spent. And comment below. Let me know what you're thinking. Am I off base here? I'm not talking about being overly influenced either. I mean, we all get influenced to one degree, okay? And everybody's in a different spectrum. So I don't want it to be about who's better than the other person. It's just about, am I on the mark here on this, or am I way off? If I'm way off, I get it. It's fine. You let me know. Let me know if I'm looking at this wrong. And let me know if I'm speaking to you. I'm guilty of it myself, man. I'm talking about this because I'm going through it. And I'm trying to figure out how to pivot, deleting some things, right? I'm trying to think about how to do this differently, where it's, a little easier on the wallet, right? So tell me what you think. Give me your comments. Like, subscribe, the whole nine. Whether you want to do that or not. That's your prerogative. Go ahead and do that. But ultimately, let me know what you're thinking. I'd love to hear what you're thinking. If I've missed the mark or if I'm on it. Anyway, again, thank you so much for taking the time out of today to join to listen to this episode. Next week, I'm going to have a great guest coming on. And just because I want to make sure we get dialed in on that, I won't announce it just yet, but it's going to be a terrific guest. I'm excited about it. I'm really excited to talk to this person and to learn about their journey. Thank you for watching the show with Rodney. That was a really fun experience, a great show. I hope you got a lot out of it. I know it's just about Griffey. I'm going to bring Rodney back on, and we're going to talk broader. We're not just going to talk Griffey. We're going to talk 90s inserts. We're going to talk about all that cool stuff, dial into some of the more popular players in the 90s, something I know I'm passionate about, and hopefully you will enjoy that as well. But again, I appreciate you taking the time. And subscribe, watch all of Dustin's stuff. He's got, my buddy's got a lot of great content. He's one of the nicest guys in the hobby, one of the best guys in the hobby. Keep supporting him. He's totally worth your time and your support. I support him as well. I appreciate your support. Have yourself a wonderful day. Stay positive, stay happy, all that good stuff. Take care.